What if quitting alcohol was just the beginning of a profound personal transformation? In today's explosive episode, we have gone beyond the surface level challenge of dry January and diving into a radical reimagining of health, healing, and hope. Amanda Kuda returns to shatter the limitations we've been told are fixed, exposing a groundbreaking approach to detoxification, challenging medical dogma, and revealing how we can rewrite our own body's narrative. This isn't just another wellness podcast. This is a roadmap to reclaiming your power, your health, and your life.
The Discovery Doc Podcast, where your journey to empowered, non-toxic living begins. Join me, Dr. CeCe, a doctor of nursing practice, self-proclaimed toxin tamer, and mama of four, alongside
me, Annah Kate, your medical mystery overachiever. Together, we'll uncover the latest in functional medicine, debunk health myths, tame toxins, and provide practical tips for thriving in a modern world.
Get ready to take control of your health with expert insights, raw stories, and actionable wellness strategies designed to help you and your family lead vibrant, toxin-free lives.
Let's discover together. Welcome to the Discovery Doc Podcast. This week, we continue our conversation with Amanda Kuda, a certified holistic life coach with a gray area around drinking coach.
Gray area drinking
coach.
She said her words right.
Okay.
Which is, I love, again, guys, if you haven't been listening, go back to episode 1 this month, because that gray area of drinking is something that's really just not talked about. It usually is, oh, we don't drink or we have a problem drinking. So this is for all you who are listening, who are in that gray area. We are speaking to you this month.
And cool. Congratulations if you chose to do dry January. I know this is our last episode of January, but kudos to you.
Oh,
yay! If you went through January as a dry January and give yourself a big kickstart. So one of my questions in this that I want Amanda to answer is the timeline, the big timeline question, because it's different for everybody in your experience and exposure and habits. But for just kind of our social drinker, what kind of does that timeline look like? And if you've already started in dry January, keep going.
Yes, absolutely. I want to piggyback on that and say congratulations. If you did this, I think that it is such a tremendous start to changing a bigger habit in your life. And if this is where you choose to stop for now, I also totally get it. There were many kind of false starts in my own relationship with alcohol, but I will also say that it is easier to stop and stay stopped with a habit than to stop and start and stop again, or to stop and try to moderate. And that realistically, 30 days is not long enough to change a relationship with alcohol if you have been a regular drinker. So imagine with me how long you've been drinking. So for me, it was from the time I was like 17 to 30 something. For me, that's actually very short. Most people have been drinking longer than me when they choose to take a break. And that's over a decade of a habit that was very regular for me with a habit forming substance. So even though I wasn't addicted, I would be nutso to think that I'm going to rewire a huge habit like that in 30 days. So I just want to be realistic with everyone and say, yes, it's amazing what you've done, but please do not expect this to have absolutely transformed your life. Do not expect to be able to cold turkey moderate after this, because that's a huge amount of pressure to put on yourself. What I would really recommend for anyone to do that's taken this, 30-day break from alcohol is to say, okay, what did I learn here? What was difficult? What was easy? Am I willing to go a little bit longer and learn a little bit more now that I've already gotten momentum? And I think that if you can start to commit to other milestones. So for me, the next one, an easy one would be 90 days, and then to reevaluate and ask these same questions again. I think that you will start to get some really, really insightful answers about what your life could look like overall. But the big message is keep going. You have momentum. Just keep it up.
Yeah. So what I find in just observing is a lot of times we go through these kind of public health initiatives that are a fad, that's a 1-month fad, or someone does the whole 30, diet for 1 month. And we feel great doing it, but our mentality going through it is, oh, let me just get through this 30 days. Let me just get to the end of the 30 days. And then once it hits February 1st, I am back to, I can have it again. And so with people kind of going through dry January, what advice can you give those people to not rebound like that. You said one, which was setting kind of the next milestone, but more so mindset wise to kind of come out of that, oh, if I can only just get here, oh, if I can only just get here. And then we constantly feel behind.
Yeah, that's kind of a lack mindset. It's kind of a white knuckling mindset of, oh, I just need to get through this. And most people can get through and white knuckle their way through 30 days or 31 days of abstinence. What I would like to shift people to is, how can I use this as a springboard and see the benefits of what being alcohol free could offer me? So how could I take this thing that I've started, this habit that I'm trying to ditch, and how can I use it to see actually how my life could be elevated and different? And again, 30 days, especially in January, I think it does a disservice to us because January is the easiest month to quit drinking. It's quiet. We've just come off the holidays. For most places, it's a little cold. People aren't doing much. It's a little bit of a dead month. So it gives you a lot of permission slips to stay home and to kind of hermit up. And it's so much easier for people who are social drinkers to not drink during that time. And so in order to really experience the reality of what it's like to not drink, you need to give yourself a little bit of a longer runway. So it's saying, hey, instead of saying, I've just got to get through this, I'm open to seeing, I'm curious about seeing what my life might be like longer term without alcohol, how I might thrive and shine with this out of the way. So I'm going to extend this experiment just a little bit longer and looking at it from what can I learn and what can I improve versus, oh my gosh, I'm giving up this thing and it's so hard and it's so terrible and I just got to make it through.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about what alcohol can kind of, what we think it can solve or what we think it can manifest, what we think it can protect or give us. So someone listening to this right now in the last week of January who's been going through dry January, when that first week of February hits, we know by now that it is our mindset behind this is so stinking important, and just making some changes in terms of actions of our day-to-day life. What is a possible change come the first week of February that you would suggest that that person implement? Let's say, going back to the tapping or something, what is something that they would be a challenge for them to say, okay, hey, yes, let's see how we feel with giving this more time, but also start to become more in tune with yourself. And next week, this is our challenge for you.
Yes. It is really important that you don't try to overhaul your life all at once. So if perhaps you were someone who went into January with this, I'm new year, new me, I'm going to make over my life, I'm going to encourage you to dial it back and add in one thing at a time. So now you have gotten to the point where you've abstained from alcohol. Can you slowly add in some other positive behavior for yourself? So you mentioned, Dr. CeCe, tapping and maybe integrating in some sort of emotional regulation technique and starting to make that a habit. Maybe you do that for 10 minutes every day. Maybe it is, if you're not someone who is a frequent movement workout person, that you start to integrate in 5 to 10 minutes of movement or walking or something really easy. But whatever you do, because alcohol is such a habit that we have ingrained in us through our mindset, it's really important that you don't do any other deprivation habits during that time. I think that, like you said, Whole30 is a huge trend that's benefited a lot of people. But if you want to have sustained success with changing your relationship with alcohol, try not to remove any other food groups during that time and just do it like, well, might as well just take everything out at once. Well, then your body and mind is like, well, I have no vices. What can I do? I have nothing. And so I would recommend leaving that as the one thing that you're excluding from your life, and then trying to pick another mental or physical positive habit to add in versus trying to take something else out so that you're not going into this deprivation mindset.
Yes. I love that. That is something that I talk a lot with my patients about, is because I always get asked, okay, while I'm doing this protocol for mold or whatever it might be, which sort of diet should I follow? What should I take out of my diet? And being in that state of deficiency can be very harmful for us, because then we feel like we have nothing and then we overcompensate and dive right back in. So I rather flip that script and say, well, what can I feed my body that is nutrient dense? What can I feed my body for a purpose? Rather, what can I take out because it's quote unquote bad? What can I do that brings myself joy and light and happiness and empowerment? And just simply switching that mindset will make it a lot easier, in my opinion, to kind of achieve those goals.
Do you have a power of why question that you ask your clients? Like, so when someone has their why, they've got reasons to really stick with something, and it's not like to lose 10 pounds, it's not to move more, like they're really deep whys. What would be your question that you would give a client when they're wrestling with this, of how to discover a deeper why to expand a little bit more? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And, I actually just had an epiphany about this recently. I was on a podcast with a gentleman host, and he told me that when he could quit drinking alcohol, he had all of these super tangible, obvious whys. He was training for a fitness competition, so alcohol was just not part of that diet. He was him and his wife were about to bring or partner or whatever, were about to bring a kid into the world. So he wanted to be a present father. He was also about to make a business pivot. So he had all of these very tangible whys. And I think the tangible whys are important because they're so obvious, but so often, especially for women, we focus on tangible whys that are like weight loss and things that aren't necessarily, I think that's important, but it's more, and it could be very important for your health as well. But for most people, I sense it's a vanity focus, while you are going to have other benefits, that there is this ego focus to it. Mm-hmm. And so what I really like to do is have you focus on the intangible why. Is there something somewhere out there that you're being called to do or experience that you have put on the back table as a someday win goal or a someday win desire, and you haven't quite gotten there, but you know that you want it at some point in your lifetime? That's the thing I would have you focus on, because those intangibles can become tangible really, really quickly when you get out of your own way. If you have a tangible why that you want to feel better, you want to train for a fitness competition, you want to run a marathon, that's amazing. But I have a feeling almost everyone in here has a bigger, deeper dream that is beyond their physical sight, whether that is to have a better relationship with their parent, and they've been struggling with that and going through therapy and all of these things, whether that is to, even conceive a child, and that's been, something that you're struggling with infertility or something, and that feels very intangible to you, even though it is a tangible thing. If it's a someday win, I can't seem to get to this thing, I don't know when this is going to happen. For me, part of it was writing a book and having a spiritual connection, and those are intangible things. I can't, I didn't know what the path was to a book. I didn't have an agent or an idea or a book title or a deal. I just knew someday, somehow I wanted to do it. And I think that it's a lot more difficult to do something for an intangible why, but it's so powerful because I know that the path to those things will shorten drastically once you get out of your own way. Now, with my friend who had the fitness goal and, the kid was on the way and wanted to change his business, those things were obvious, and he just wanted to make it easier and accelerate his path. Really, really honing in though on what is my someday win, why, and how could I use this as a way to accelerate that goal and make it happen and make it come to reality.
Yes. I think there's so much in society that pulls us away from ourselves. Mm-hmm. And it's just sometimes about getting back to you. Like everything, there's so many things, the media, drinking, whatever it might be, that pulls us away from being in tune with ourselves. And there is so much power in that. You can do so much when you are on your own team. Mm-hmm. And not against yourself or not being pulled in so many different directions, that ultimately I think it comes down to just you feeling so empowered from within and not from outer sources, that you are unstoppable when you have that feeling for whatever you want to create in your life.
Absolutely. That's so powerful. That's such a powerful way to look at it.
So I have one more question for you before we wrap up and show people where they can find you and all the goodies. So your question is, out of all the things that you've ever experienced in your life, what is the one discovery that you have experienced that you would like to translate to other people so that they don't miss out on it in their life? So you're taking your 30 plus years and say, this is the key discovery that I want you to walk away with. If you learn nothing else, this is the key discovery.
Yeah, I'm going to steal a line from James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. And he had this viral tweet a couple of years ago that said, the ultimate form of optimization is elimination. Nothing is more effective than removing the ineffective. And for me, I found that my most ineffective thing in my life was alcohol. And I had tried to be an optimized person up until then. And I have a feeling you have a lot of high achievers listening to this, a lot of go-getters who will do all the things. And let me tell you what, you can only put so many good habits on top of one really crummy one and expect them to get you any results. So if maybe you've made it to the end of this series or you just started on this episode and you're like, well, I don't have a problem with alcohol. Well, find your most suboptimal habit then and get really realistic with yourself on what that is, and give yourself the commitment or the challenge to remove that suboptimal habit fully, not moderate it, not do it less, remove it. And I'm going to say for 90 days minimum, and see what happens in your life when you do that. And I think that you will be pretty impressed and shocked by the results.
Oh, what a great way to start this year.
I love
this
it.
is the most perfect, just the most perfect matchup for the beginning of 2025. Absolutely.
Amazing.
Amanda, we can't thank you enough for sharing all of your thoughts, your experience, your personal, just experience and what led you here with our audience. Can you please let them know where they can find you, give any sort of shout outs to anything you want, your book, etc. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. Well, I am everywhere on the internet at Amanda Kuda, and that's Kuda. I mostly hang out on Instagram, but I would love to, I wrote a book called Unbottled Potential, Break Up with Alcohol, Break Through to Your Best Life. You can find it anywhere. Books are sold and on Amazon. And I would love if you resonated with this conversation, if you give it a look. And anyone who did resonate with the conversation and maybe wants a little intro into it, I'm giving away my 21-day challenge that usually you have to buy the book to get access to. But if you go to amandakuda.com/challenge and use the coupon code DiscoveryDoc, all one word, you can just get it for free. And that gives you a little taste into the way that I work. Maybe if you're at the end of dry January and you want to dip into your alcohol-free lifestyle a little bit more with a little bit more intention and ask some deep questions about why this could be life-changing for you, the 21-day challenge would be a great place to start.
Awesome.
Amazing.
And we will make sure that all of those links are linked in every episode in the show notes. So so you won't miss out on that. So I'm excited.
Me too. That's a deal. That
Yes.
is a deal.
All right. Do you need some expert advice from the Discovery Doc or our esteemed guest? Shoot us a question on our podcast page, thediscoverydoc.com. As we wrap up this month's Toxin Tamer feature, we'll discuss practical strategies for ditching harmful toxins and switching to safer alternatives for a healthy lifestyle. All right, here's what I've wanted to know all month is how do we ditch and switch Paraquat?
Paraquat. It doesn't fail. I told
so fun to
AK
say.
at the beginning of this month that we had to say Paraquat every time like that. I think we've maybe hit the 50% mark.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's better than nothing.
For your listening pleasure.
Exactly. I also said there was one long. Everyone.
If you missed that, go back and listen to that episode.
Listen, I'm still drinking my coffee. Okay. There's things that need to happen before my brain turns on fully. Okay. Anyways, despite all of the very well documented risks that we know occur with Paraquat use, and if you didn't hear, go back to previous episodes. Right now in the United States, the use of Paraquat is higher than it's ever been. It has raised nearly 200% since 2009. And this can be attributed, again, the world has kind of gotten on board with glyphosate being very harmful. So farmers have then been like, okay, well, what are we supposed to use now? So they turn to Paraquat, which is even more harmful than glyphosate was. But either way, the use of it is increasing 200% in the past 15 years, which is yucky. Although over 70 countries at this point have banned it completely, the United States is not one of them because we're never one of them. We just wait. Why? Because we like people being sick, apparently. Anyways, and there has been no discernible impact on agricultural production. So don't come at me by saying, oh, well, we have to use it because it'll impact our crops and how they grow. That is not true with 70 countries banning it across the world and no impact on their agricultural production. That includes the EU, European Union, since 2007, I'm sorry. EU since 2007. In South Korea, this is actually very interesting. Yes.
You cannot say that word.
Which one?
That word.
Which one?
This one.
Okay.
You have to say.
I will. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So this is what's interesting. In South Korea, there were over 3,200 incidents of people harming themselves following the ingestion of Paraquat in 2010.
Yes, harming themselves as in unalived.
Yes, unalived. And linked directly to this chemical. Mm-hmm. So South Korea banned it immediately. China banned it in 2017. India and Thailand, 2019, Brazil, Chile, Malaysia, Peru, Taiwan. There are so many countries, 70 countries that have banned it. But here we are with all those risks associated with it, still utilizing 8 billion pounds of it per year in the United States.
And just because you need a permit to access it doesn't mean it can't be used in harmful ways if someone else got a hold of it.
Right. Exactly. So this is a little bit different than our past toxin tamers, where we have kind of physical swaps that you can do, because that's just not the case here. There are ways that we can try to avoid it. And the best that we can do, and I have a little asterisk with this, is trying to buy the top offenders in organic versions. And my asterisk there is, let's take a company like Driscoll, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. Driscoll has strawberries, raspberries, blueberries. They have regular ones and they have non-organic ones and organic ones. I'm just going to say this might be a theory. I've never been to a Driscoll farm where things are produced or where they buy their produce from. But what I would want to know is, are these fields truly separate? Because if you are using chemicals and herbicides on one field, and then you have an organic field, air quotes, organic field, a couple acres away, well, we know by previous episodes that paraquat can travel, and any herbicides, pesticides can travel via the air. So you're going to get cross contaminants on that organic produce if they're in relatively close proximity to each other. So that's an asterisk. With that being said, that is not really something you can control unless you're growing your own fruits and vegetables. So what I would do then is try to support your local farmers markets. Go out in your community. Who's growing produce? Who can you purchase from directly instead of these big corporations? That will give you more control over the produce that you produce or that you purchase and what is utilized on your produce. There are also good community-supported agricultural programs that you can seek out in your community that will link you with some of these local farmers markets. And even, out here, we're very blessed, but out here you can drive down the street and it'll say fresh strawberries or fresh honey. Yeah, honey, farm fresh eggs. So don't be scared to go up to those little stands, you know, and strike up a conversation. The other thing that no matter if it's organic or not, everybody should be washing their produce. Everybody should do produce soaks.
And it's not rinsing it under the water.
Yes. It's not only rinsing it under the water. Don't get me started, because water in its own, anyways. How do we live? I don't know. We actually do a combination of this. Some people just do one, but I actually use all three because I'm psycho. But salt. So some people use just salt water, Himalayan salt. I prefer Celtic salt actually, but I'm also crazy. So I buy mine from Iceland.
Yeah.
My husband wants, he loves me so much.
Salt is good.
Salt is so good. But soak in salt water using a salt of your choice for 20 minutes. That even 10% saltwater solution is effective for removing the most common pesticides and residues, including things as strong as DDT, and then rinse it afterwards. Baking soda is also a good choice. Add 1 teaspoon of baking soda to 2 cups of water. Let it sit for 15 minutes. Rinse afterwards. And then vinegar. We use apple cider vinegar. Any vinegar really is appropriate. For 20 minutes, 1 part vinegar, 4 parts water, and then you want to be careful with the vinegar though, because soaking them too long, I've created very mashed raspberries. They get soft.
Turn them into wine.
Yeah, they get very soft. So
do you do these all together or in sequential order, or?
No, I actually just do one big bowl. And then I don't measure. I gave you measurements because I'm supposed to give more thorough instructions on these things, but I don't measure. I just get a huge stainless steel bowl. I do the fruits separately because they do all, like the more porous fruits will get soggy, if you soak them for longer. So I'll do everything individually, but I'll get a big bowl, put it with our filtered water, and then put some apple cider vinegar, put a couple pinches of salt and a little teaspoon of baking soda, and just let it sit 15-20 minutes. Then put it in a strainer, rinse it, and then I put it on something to dry and let it dry. And then I repackage it. Instead of putting it back in the plastic container, we just use mason jars or glass Tupperware. And I do think it lasts much longer that way, because when you're taking all the pesticides and all that, it does, the amount of time that it lasts does decrease. That is true.
Well, and you should be eating it
when it's fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So don't buy so much that it goes bad. Or if you know that you're going to use it for smoothies or other recipes, get it, process it, and freeze it. So you can also do not boiling water, but hot water for stone fruits and kind of blanch them. I wouldn't use it on raspberries. It will cook the raspberry, but things that have a little blueberries in some really warm water will help, get some of that. So apples and pears and peaches and kind of those big stone fruits, you can blanch those. Yeah. It doesn't affect them, but it gets everything on the outside off. So that's bonus tip number 4.
Yeah, exactly. That we have to do the best that we can. I know this stuff can be very overwhelming, and it does feel like right now more than ever, it's like, what the heck is safe? Like, what can we use? And it's crazy that we have to think that way. It really, really is. So the last little bit is when there's something this drastic that is so toxic, we as people need to push for these things to be banned. So going to, being part of that movement, there's companies out there, there's lawyers who are dealing with lawsuits against Paraquat. There are major companies like, there's one that I can't think of the name that I actually found. It's worldwide. I'm sorry. I'll tell AK and then she'll put it somewhere for you guys.
I'll put it in the show notes.
But it's basically like a worldwide, like natural agricultural company that is really working to get this banned pretty much all over. And they give really good alternatives because some people are like, well, then what are we supposed to use? It is very convenient. And they have better natural alternatives that, yes, require more labor, but hey, that's employment, to get rid of these weeds. And there's thermal things that we can do. Yeah. There is manual things that we can do. There are actually other chemical agents that are like, I will take a lesser evil over Paraquat for now. There are other things that can be implemented. So it's not something where farmers just need to get rid of it and then have nothing. And so this group is really trying to educate farmers throughout the world and 3-letter organizations that, hey, there are other alternatives that are not as harmful to people. So we need to be part of that movement.
The value of life should be worth the labor.
Yes. And it's just crazy that we go throughout our day consuming these things that the government knows is so toxic and harmful towards us. Mm-hmm. Y'all should be, can I say this word? Pissed.
Yeah.
Y'all should be pissed. You should be pissed that this is allowed for yourself, for your children, for your grandma, your grandpa, your dogs, whoever, because this impacts animals too. Okay, I'm done.
Can I say something else? Yes. I hope Maha makes a difference.
Me too.
That's my vote.
I do.
Which I think the health of our country should be a priority for anybody in office, period. But that's just, they didn't ask us.
They should have asked us. They should have asked us.
They should have.
I do not consent to this stuff being sprayed on my food.
Mm-mm. Not at all. Not when it can mess up my brain. Oh, my brain's already messed up. Switch teas up here. I don't need help by eating fruit. All right, stay ahead of the wellness game and get Dr. CeCe's top picks and swaps delivered directly to your inbox. Join our mailing list at thediscoverydoc.com. Join us in our quest to bust medical myths. In this segment, we'll be diving deep into the world of health-related misinformation, uncovering the truth and empowering you with accurate knowledge. All right, Dr. CeCe, here's the 1-2 punch. Here's the second punch of our 1-2 punch. So if you listened to last week, you got a big dose there. And here is the other half of that punch. So can you tell us what's going on with this one?
Why don't you want to see these ones? She's scared. I ain't scared. No, I'm just kidding. So
I like that this one is false. This is one of my favorite ones of all time to be false.
So the myth here is that it's impossible.
Just busted.
Impossible to reverse autoimmune diseases. Yes, false. So in conventional medicine, and what we are taught is that once you have an autoimmune disease, there's nothing to be done. You have to be on a medication to just manage the symptoms for the rest of your life. This is near and dear to both of our hearts. Because for me, if you go back and listen to the last episode, there was something that triggered kind of my health at 21 years old. I was left with Hashimoto's. And the first thing that one of the first doctors that I saw told me, well, it was actually an endocrinologist, and then I went to a more holistic doctor in South Florida, and they both told me the same thing, was that once you have Hashimoto's, you always have it. There's nothing that can be done. Here's some Synthroid, and that's it. And that is so false if we just keep asking why. What happened, CeCe? What triggered your body at 21 years old to start producing these autoantibodies? What is this trying to protect you from? What is it going after? If someone just comes in and digs through your health a little bit deeper than that surface layer, you will always find a trigger, whether that was when you were 6 years old or 60 years old. Our body is, yes, genetically predisposed to things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am genetically predisposed to Hashimoto's. My mom has it. My grandma had it. And so that genetic predisposition is there, but it does not mean it needs to activate, particularly at 21 years old and not later in life. So the fact that it activated so young for me, at that point in time, if I knew now what I knew then, I wish someone would have circled back and said, okay, but why?
Yeah.
What's going on with this chick? What has happened? Let's dive deep. And there are so many contributing factors. We can go as basic as diet. And AK can chime in on this because we know that she eats certain foods and she blows up like a hot air balloon.
Yep. Yeah. And it's no fun. And I know that it's going to happen. And or if I get gluten or seed oiled, like seed oils are my biggest culprit right now.
Yes. So that is a great example. If AK eats seed oils or consumes seed oils, her joints flare up. You can actually see how swollen her joints get. There is no other factor in that moment than the food that she is consuming.
Mm-hmm.
So when a standard Americanized diet is filled with processed seed oils, inflammatory foods, and just foods that are way far away from the ground.
Foods that aren't actually food.
Food that aren't actually food are synthetic chemicals. Yes, that's going to either worsen or possibly provoke some sort of autoimmune response. Herbicides, we talk about herbicides, throughout this entire month. That is a provoking agent for certain autoimmune diseases as well, or autoimmune reactivity. Stress, cortisol is a huge trigger as well.
So your emotional and environmental stress, and then you add in a dietary stress, and just normal life or breathing outside or doing all the things. And so it's not necessarily that it's just one thing, it's the culmination and piling on of all the things. So I know that, new symptom, is that I will start to swell when I'm emotionally stressed.
That's a lot of my patients. A lot of my patients will get worse when they are stressed. Why? Because your cortisol is your stress hormone. It's wonderful. It's there to protect you. But when it feels attacked, it's going to increase. And now that increase is going to pull from other hormones in that hormonal web. It's going to cause deficiencies in other hormones when that cortisol increases. And then there's a cascade of events that occurs that leads us to become more symptomatic. You cannot heal when you are at a heightened state of fight or flight. And that does not mean, that can mean, like what AK said, it can mean spiritual, emotional, environmental. That word stress does not just mean, you have a stressful job. It can mean so many other things. So we, again, cannot heal if our central nervous system is under attack and at a heightened state. So bringing your central nervous system down, finding modalities in everyday life that can help ground yourself. 5 minutes, a couple times per day of breath work, of grounding, of meditation, of prayer, of just kind of bringing yourself back to you can make all the difference. Those are very simple things that people who have autoimmune conditions can implement without a provider. Now,
so before you jump into that, I do want to shout out, because this was actually a question that Erica M sent in about how to kind of detox from stress, and you just kind of answered that question. So shout out to Erica. So she just asked me this yesterday of how to detox. She has POTS symptoms and she's got autoimmune symptoms, but she doesn't actually have POTS. So if you have a chronic illness, you know what she's going through and what this means. So she did ask how to detox and through system regulation. So congratulations, Erica, you answered your question.
And I would say the two biggest things to start are breath work and then affirmations. So you are your perception of reality. What you speak of in your head is your perception of you and your reality.
Take every thought captive.
Yes, it's so powerful. So if you just start to implement even twice a day, morning and night, and then kind of graduate towards when you are in a little bit higher stress environment, just a 4-count breath in, 4-count breath out. And what I like to do, this is something that I'm working on, is I like to envision, so I do it 6 times. And I do it for I envision every child of mine and my husband. And then the last one I envision is just like spreading light outwards. And it brings me so, like, just seeing my kids' smiling faces, like just that visual while I'm doing the breath work, it just takes me out of that heightened state so easily. That's such an easy thing that anyone can do. And then again, kind of changing the way that we're thinking about ourselves or what we're saying to ourselves is huge. These are things that you can do on your own in terms. Yes.
So write it down, say it out loud, and then do a mental vision of that. So,
and then you will become that. You will become that. Like, something very personally that I'm working on right now is my cup gets really filled with other people's emotions from seeing all my patients all day and hanging on to those emotions. And then by the time I get home, my cup is overflowing and I don't have room. I don't have space for anything else. And I don't want to be that. I want to be emotionally available to my kids, to my husband. And so I have this little hypnotherapy that I listen to twice a day that is becoming that. It's not saying, oh, you will get there one day. It is that I am that. And it makes all the difference. So just implementing something that you connect with a couple times per day. I know it doesn't seem like much, but it will make all the difference in terms of your health. Now, on the provider front, when I have a patient that comes to me saying, hey, I've been diagnosed with Crohn's, right? An autoimmune disease within our GI tract. Can something be done? Something can always be done. Something can always be done. That is what I say. I don't promise to cure anything. I don't promise to reverse anything, but I will. Something can always be done. You just have to look for triggers. So in that patient, I'm peeling back the onion layers and I'm saying, okay, why is this patient's body attacking itself? We don't just do that for funsies. We don't just decide one day, hey, autoimmune disease, we're going to come in and ransack our body. Our body is wonderfully and beautifully designed and we're meant to heal. So what is in the way of that? And we strip that down. And sometimes we find there's different bacterial overloads or different viral overloads or parasites or whatever it might be, mold toxicity, heavy metal. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But you just have to find the trigger and then you have to work from ground zero up. So rebuilding that in terms of a Crohn's patient, rebuilding the immune system so that it can modulate itself, so that it can quote, attack things appropriately, but then also settle down appropriately. Then go into healing the permeability of the GI tract, go into eradicating any triggers that might be coming up in terms of those bacterial, parasitic, viral overloads, whatever it might be, and keep working out. And you can absolutely get to a point where that autoimmune disease is no longer present.
Yay! I want to get there.
So find yourself a practitioner who believes that, because that's it. If you believe that it can be done, it can be done. There's always something that can be done.
Yeah. Ask the questions.
Yes.
And if you are not feeling safe to ask the questions, again, find another provider that you can ask the questions and ask them to give you the reasoning behind why they feel that way. And some of them are behind lawyers, and that's okay. We've talked about that on this podcast before. And you can honor that and say, hey, well, if I'm going to get support, how do I get that support? Because this is what I would like to do or I'd like to explore, and then go from there.
Exactly. So. Listen, you are the captain of your ship. If you have not found the answers that you believe are there, keep searching.
Until next time, let's discover together. All right. Don't forget to get the royal treatment and subscribe to the insider list at discoverydoc.com. Become an insider, and I'm going to send you all of the deepest savings, all the bonus entries to contest, all the things. But this list is closing. Today, Amanda has shown us that it's not just a beginning. It's a complete revolution of how we understand health, toxins, and our body's incredible capacity to heal. From challenging the temporary nature of dry January to understanding how to strategically eliminate environmental toxins like Paraquat, to busting the myth that autoimmune diseases are life sentences, we've torn down the walls of conventional wisdom. Before diving deeper into the wellness world, let's pause for a quick disclaimer. The information shared on this podcast is for general informational and entertainment purposes only. While we love being your Discovery Doc allies, we're not here to replace your doctor or healthcare provider. Consider us your fellow health explorers, sharing our findings as we uncover the mysteries of well-being. Always consult with a qualified medical professional before taking any action based on the content of this podcast. Just like an archaeological dig, this disclaimer may change occasionally, so be sure to check back for updates. Stay healthy, stay curious, and keep exploring with the Discovery Doc.